Yeah, Razlo here for gameyayfun. I'm here to talk to you today about Resonance of Fate, otherwise known as End of Eternity in Japan. It's an action RPG, or maybe more standard RPG, with action elements that's created by Triace, the makers of Star Ocean and Eternal Sonata, and it's going to be published by Sega. It's supposed to be coming out here in the US in March. I just checked out the demo, the Japanese demo, and it's pretty unique, so I just wanted to talk about it for a little bit. So this demo here focuses mostly on the combat elements of Resonance of Fate, which it took me quite a while to get used to, because it plays really differently than pretty much any other game I've ever played before, RPG or action game. And I think the best way to sort of describe what the intent of Resonance of Fate is, in the same way that Mass Effect was attempting to kind of bridge the gap between action players and RPG players, Resonance of Fate is also trying to do that, except Mass Effect was trying to appeal to an American audience that was kind of more into action games and maybe not quite as into RPGs. So they made an action game with RPG elements. Resonance Fate kind of takes the exact opposite approach, and they're making an RPG first that just happens to look like an action game and have a lot of action game elements kind of thrown on top of it. So if you look at what my characters are doing in the game here, a lot of it's going to look not that much different from something that you would see in like a Devil May Cry or a Bayonetta or a heavy action shooter, but the way that you actually execute the moves is about as different as it could possibly be. At the start of each area, as soon as you get into a battle, you have a character that you can control, one of your party members, one of the three or however many party members you have at the time. You hit the square button on the PS3 anyways to choose where you want to move. A line will come up on the screen. You can move that anywhere you want on the screen, lengthen or shorten that, and then you let go of the button or hit it again to confirm, and then you will start actually moving. While you're moving, when you get close in range to an enemy, you can hit the X button, I believe, to start attacking them with whatever weapon you have set as your primary weapon. This will start juggling the enemy up into the air, which at that point you can just keep firing on them, or you can change targets to switch to another enemy and start shooting them. So what you end up having are these really kind of epic looking fights that really mostly consist of you hitting the X button over and over again. So that's kind of one of those things where if you're really unfamiliar with how to play an action game, really kind of like the combat of a regular RPG where it's usually like one button hits, but like the intensity of an action game, this game kind of delivers that, where you look incredibly badass doing these moves, yet the actual execution is incredibly simplistic. One thing that they also do, you'll notice my character's jumping through the air, doing these really graceful somersaults and flips and jumps and things. The way that you execute that is you just hit the square button, which is your kind of your navigation button, at any point while you're moving, and your character will then jump in the air. So then it actually does serve a purpose other than looking really awesome. If you're trying to hit like a certain weak point on an enemy, maybe that's their head or something like that. Obviously if you jump up in the air and flip over them, you get a better attack on them. If there's a wall that's kind of in your way, you can jump over it and get on the other side of the enemy. Or even if you just want to get on the other side of the wall for cover. The game does use cover and other things that you'd kind of be used to in your typical like gunfight action game. Except the way that you get to them is a little bit different. It's not entirely that you have to move just in a line. There is free movement. I outside of combat. There's also free movement when you start in combat, but you have a timer on every move for every character, so it's turn-based, like most Japanese RPGs. So if you move just using the analog stick, you're going to end up wasting a lot more time than if you just pause the action for a second and then choose what direction you want to move in and start moving. So that's pretty much the best way to move in the game if you're trying to get as much action done during that character's turn as possible. The one interesting thing is the game does have a lot of action game conventions, but with really strange RPG twists. So you'll see things like oil barrels that you have to explode, except in this world they're oil barrels with spider legs that are running after you to attack you. So you have to kind of keep your distance from those enemies or lure them near other enemies and then have them explode, as opposed to being directly next to them while you're attacking them. I've found myself just really enjoying the combat. The demo lasts for probably about an hour or so, if you're kind of taking your time, maybe slightly less. But throughout the entire thing, I was just having a ton of fun with the combat. Who's to say if that would, you know, carry over time, but I think that you'd probably have a better chance of kind of staying engrossed than a lot of other games' combat, just because of how high impact it is. You can also switch enemies, switch your characters' weapons, like grenades and things like that. As you can see here, just she's blowing up an enemy, just throwing grenades. Obviously, the time in between being able to throw a grenade takes a little bit longer, so that's a disadvantage over a gun, but you're going to end up doing more damage in the end to most enemies with that. This game's kind of up against the wall because it's coming out the same month as Final Fantasy 13, which is unfortunate. But if you're looking for an action-heavy RPG set in a dystopian future that tries to do something really different, I really recommend you taking a look at it. Or if you're an RPG fan who's kind of always envied some of the cool things you see in action games, I think this is a game that would kind of speak directly to you.